Hello friends, and welcome back to my channel, or if it's your first time here, welcome. Either way, I'm so glad you're here. To say I'm excited to share today's speed build with you would be a huge understatement. This idea actually came to me while I was editing my previous video, and as soon as that video was uploaded, I got straight to work turning the Glade of Trust into a journey down the yellow brick road. Today's video is just a little bit longer than normal, but I did want to include a walkthrough of the area both during the day and at night, but trust me, it's worth sticking around for. Without further ado, let's get on with it. So a little fun fact about this build, I was actually watching the movie while I was doing it. I had an idea in my head for the layout, and I also knew the items that I thought I wanted to include in the area, but I could not remember the order Dorothy found the other characters in the movie. Now, it may be a minor detail to some, but I'm a stickler for accuracy, and watching the movie actually ended up giving me some new ideas that I was able to incorporate into my design. This scarecrow is the first character that Dorothy encounters on her journey down the yellow brick road. I started this area by outlining the larger field where the scarecrow would be placed with flowers and fencing. My next step was to dig all of the holes and then plant the wheat to create the wheat field. I used the peaceful meadow greenery cluster a lot in this build. Lately, it has become one of my favorite items to use to create the cluttered look that I love so much while keeping in mind the item limit. The obvious choice for pathing in this build is the golden brick road, and was what actually inspired the entire build. Luckily, I had never really used any gold in my game, so I had quite a bit stocked up. But if you do plan to recreate this area in your own valley, be prepared to use a lot of gold for the path and possibly to do some grinding. For underbrush in this area, I mostly use the flowered peaceful meadow bushes and plaza ferns. Even though I'm constantly finding myself mindful of the item limit, I still like to use small clusters of these items to help round out the corners of the path. I did also add a couple smaller wheat fields along the path in the scarecrow's area. Now, this wouldn't necessarily be essential to the build, but I liked doing it because it really makes you feel like you're running through a larger field when you're in the game. I don't know how familiar you really are with the movie, and this is probably one of those ideas that I wouldn't have had without actually watching the movie while I was doing the build, but the scarecrow is constantly losing his stuffing. To mimic this, I dropped a few pieces of wheat and then placed them under the scarecrow. I specifically placed the scarecrow here near the bridge to Mother Gothel's house because in the movie, Dorothy discovers the scarecrow when she stops to ponder which direction she should take at a Y in the road. I haven't been building very many of these little decorative displays in my valley lately because I've really been using a lot more flowers, but this area needed something a little bit to spruce it up, and I just didn't feel like greenery really fit. I also didn't want to block the bridge, and since I knew I'd be placing another small wheat field just on the other side of the fence, I thought these rustic farm items were the perfect touch. To finish off this area and start the transition to the next one, I used some more of the peaceful meadow greenery clusters and some trees. I used a couple different trees in the build. I used the small oak trees for some height, and I mostly used these in the back of the build. Closer to the paths, I used the tall acacia trees. I noticed that this tree really gave the biome kind of the dark, creepy feel, and I just thought it fit so well with my ideas. One thing that I have learned about myself in this game is that if I completely close off a path, I quickly grow tired of a build. So on this one, I just made sure that I left plenty of open spots by using ferns or trees. Since I knew this was going to be a large build with a long path, I decided to mostly embrace the squared off corner. I don't think many of us would argue that a natural rounded corner would definitely fit the build better, but sometimes you just have to work with what you're given. And instead of using a bunch of rocks and bushes to round off my corners, I decided to save my item limit and use fencing with a few more of my new favorite bush clusters. And of course, since we are building kind of a forest atmosphere, quite a few trees were added down the path as well. For the next area, I pulled my apple trees out of my orchard. After staggering those in the area, I added in some of the 3-limbed trees to achieve the spookiness I was looking for. If you haven't yet figured it out, the next scene we are building is the one where Dorothy and the scarecrow come across the apple trees in the forest. After they stop and start picking the fruit from the tree for a snack, the trees start fighting back by throwing their apples at Dorothy and the scarecrow. After Dorothy calms them down, they begin crawling on the ground to collect the fallen fruit, and this is when they discover the Tin Man. The next character the crew encounters is probably my favorite character in the entire movie, and that is the Cowardly Lion. I filled his area in with rocks and clusters from the Forest of Valor just to make it stand out a bit from the rest of the area. I then added in some of the same trees and shrubbery used throughout the rest of the build. Usually when I am building in a biome with water, whether that be a pond or a river, I build it into my design. However, for this build, I didn't want the water to really be a part of it, so I used a lot of fencing, trees, and of course the rock clusters to kind of disguise it. Building the path around the pond was a bit challenging for me, and I did have to end up using a lot more pieces of underbrush to make it look good than what I would have liked, but in order to hide the uneven edge of the path, I was willing to make the sacrifice. Also, keep in mind I was still watching the movie, so if I wasn't picking up brand new ideas, I was definitely adding to the ideas that I already had, and this area definitely didn't have much planned, so initially I thought it was going to be mostly just trees. What's really funny is that the timing of this next idea was just perfect. I was kind of debating on if I was going to fill this area with trees or just leave it clean and clear like it was, kind of like the clearing leading to the Emerald City. While I was pondering this, I hear the Wicked Witch say, "Poppies will make them sleep," and my wheels just instantly started turning. I had already planned on the poppies, but when I heard that line, I instantly remembered the Pool of Souls, and that led to the building of the scene in my valley. The idea here is that Maleficent's throne kind of represents the Wicked Witch, and then I placed a critter house in the area and then tried to hide it with some brush, and then I put ravens in it, which in my mind would represent the flying monkeys. This is actually the first area in the whole build that I placed lights in, and that was just because I immediately knew that I had to put green lights here. For the poppy field the characters have to cross before reaching Emerald City, I used the red flowers from Forgotten Lands. I had initially thought that I would just throw them all down and let them fall randomly, but since the rest of the build seemed more symmetric and straight, it felt super weird to just have them scattered. So I did end up picking them all up and arranging them, but lucky for you, I cut a lot of that tedious work out of the video. Olaf's snow clouds are absolutely perfect for this next area. If you remember in the movie, the poppies really hit Dorothy hard and she is just out like a light, while the other characters are frantically trying to waken her while also trying to fight off the effects of the poppies. Glinda the Good Witch pops on into the rescue and makes it snow, which awakens Dorothy. In this build, the Elsa statue represents Glinda the Good Witch. The last area in this build is, of course, the Emerald City. I used Merlin's house as the Great Oz's home. However, I do think there are actually a lot of ways that you could do this. I had actually tossed around the idea of using a lighted gazebo and then arranging the green lights and bamboo shoots around that, but ultimately I had been planning on using Merlin's house all along, so I decided to just stick with that plan. Obviously, in the Emerald City, you need green lights, so I staggered these between the bamboo shoots. They actually work wonders in making this area appear much more grand and a lot greener than it actually is. My very last step in this build was to go back and place all of the lighting. I actually ended up playing around quite a bit with lighting and color in this build, so I won't go into a lot of explaining here, but instead I will wait until we do the walkthrough. I will say that this build feels much brighter at night than the other builds that I've done in this biome, and I really think that it's the path. For the lighting in this biome, I definitely focused more on color and less on style. Well, mostly anyways. Along the path, I used yellow lights. The only thing that I added to the scarecrows area is the jar lights along the fence. For the next area, which is the area where the Tin Man is, I used purple lights to help achieve the creepy forest vibe. I had initially placed red lights down, which definitely looked good, but I enjoyed the contrast of the purple just a little bit more. For the Cowardly Lions area, I ended up using the red lights, though I really think that you could use about any color you wanted here. I used the red basically just to help the area stand out just a little bit more. Of course, you already know that in the Wicked Witches area, I used the green lights, and I think it's fairly obvious why. And walking through this area at night really makes this area probably one of my favorites in the build. Glinda's area really didn't need any additional lighting because of the snow clouds, so I just added a couple lamps more for accent pieces and decoration than anything. Walking through this area with the snow and the dreamlight trees, it just feels like such a dream. Of course, last but certainly not least, the Great Oz is adorned all in green lights. I was so excited to start this build, but if I'm being completely honest with you, I was also just a little bit nervous. I knew it was going to take some creativity and imagination to utilize the items available in the game to truly create a journey down the yellow brick road. In the end, I think I achieved my goal and proved that if you can dream it, you can do it. Now I'm just wondering if there are any other themed builds that I can do in my valley. Do you have any ideas for some builds that you'd like to see me do? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up. And of course, subscribe if you'd like to know when I upload next. That's all I had for you today, friends. Until next time, peace out.